Hey everybody, welcome to Painting for Pleasure. I'm your host, Tony Visco. I'd like to do a night scene. But what I was thinking about doing is to taking something that's very similar to this. I use this as my base. It's basically a church somewhere down in the Cape area, Sandwich, I believe. But that being said, I'm going to change it up a bit. I want to use the basic structure of the building and maybe put another building or so in, and end up with something that is maybe the white building, but against a darker background, like it's evening. So that's the goal, and whether or not we can accomplish it is going to be a matter of application. I've rough sketched this out, so we're pretty much ready to go. The building is going to be white, so I'm going to end up painting inside, or let's just say that I'm going to end up putting water in the sky, and then we're going to do the sky nice and wet. So what I want to do is to make sure that the area between the columns, which would be basically, I'm going to do the whole sky wet, but I want to make sure, being a little bit careful right now, because it's just this little area between the columns. I don't mask, as you know, those of you that have been with me on a regular basis. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to carefully wet this area around here. Some of this stuff I'm going to leave lighter. I've got some, I don't know, what do they call them, poplar trees maybe, or something like that in these areas. So I'm just taking my brush and going around the outline of some of the areas that I want to leave white. And it's a small brush. I'll probably use a bigger brush now that I just trapped that. So we want to make sure that we've got a lot of this area here, this area right here. By right here, I'm talking about trapping around that area. So we'll take now and wet the entire, let's just wet the sky area, make it nice and wet. You can do this with a big brush as well. Sometimes it's tough to get into smaller spaces. But essentially, all I'm doing is I'm going to just wet the sky, because we're going to do the sky, wet into wet. And I do have a tree, a big deciduous tree that's sitting over here. And what I'm going to do is just maybe take a little bit of a paper towel, or my tissue here, and just dry this out. Essentially, it's basically where and I'm going to tighten this up. I have well, I'll tell you what I'll do. This paper I'm using is a paper that is a mechanical sheet, and it tends to curl up more so than a lot of papers. Doesn't want to lay flat, so we have to wet the background a little bit to flatten it out. I use this paper basically when I'm teaching down at the when I'm teaching live down at the centers, because most of the time when I'm working with students down there, we're doing a lot of projects that are not going to end up being finished projects. They're just tests. They're working on applications and textures. And yes, we do a painting, but usually I'll switch over to a little bit better paper. But I thought just getting this down might not be a bad idea. So, as you know, most of the time I'll hinge the paper What I probably will do here is just to tack, because it's so wet, just to tack it down so that the camera can see it better. Not so much that I need it, but if it starts to roll up on me, the camera's going to end up, you're going to have a skewed point of view. So as you can see, what I'm doing is I'm bringing water in here. I'm going to mix up, I'm going to take some cobalt blue. I'm going to change this around a bit. Let's just do some, here's my cobalt blue. This is going to end up being really dark, by the way. But I'm just trapping my area where I'm going to leave it white. So we're going to do something like this. Come around these trees down here. We got a few trees. I need them to stand out a little bit against the dark background. But all I'm doing right now is just putting some cobalt blue in here as a tone right across the whole area. So we're going to start to make that even darker. So we're going to mix a little bit of that cobalt blue and my French ultramarine blue. Okay. In this area, again, coming down, and so that we're clear on what we're doing, let me just take my little small brush here and see if I can get some real darks here now. One here. Whoops, wrong area. My goodness. Sorry about that, guys. Need to see what I'm doing. Here, here, and here. Okay. Now that's why, just using my tiny brush. Okay, just to give myself an area around that so that I know what I'm doing, because all of this over here is, we're going to be seeing through that, and we're going to make it darker too. Now this is all wet. And I'm going to start to put in even darker material, darker pigment. We're basically mixing up French ultramarine blue here. See this? Taking French ultramarine blue, going to take a little bit of burnt sienna, add it in there, make it even darker. And I want it dark at the top. It's wet. I want it dark at the top. In order for me to get this building to stand out as a white building. So yes, you know, usually we're working with light to dark. That's true, but I know that this area up here is going to be dark. I want it dark. So the combination of my French ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, is going to give me a nice feeling of nice dark areas over here. It dried out real quick already. We have some fudge factor in this because it's my tree limb. And we're going to end up adding a little bit of alizarin crimson to this down here. And remember, it's a night scene. Trap that. Come over here. Paper dries out a bit quicker than most papers. Okay, so we're making it nice and dark, aren't we? We can still lift out of this stuff, by the way. So for those areas that I need to trap, maybe make some lighter areas here and there. We'll put some darker areas in there. Give the impression that there are some dark trees in the background. I think we should be okay. All right, so building, the buildings are going to be left white. We're going to do some abstract trees back here, just to give you the feeling that there's other things that are going on. I'm using just burnt sienna in this area here now. In my dark areas. And I'm going to come down a little bit down in this area. And produce some, what I need to do is to clean my brush, get a little bit lighter, I'm actually, what I'm doing is I'm mixing up some of my new gamboge, I'm sorry, no, I mean actually a little bit of my new gamboge and my Naples yellow together, along with this blue, because we're going to slowly change this up as we come down here. Now, I don't want to necessarily do a white area. I don't want to leave this white. I'm just going to tone this a bit. And we're going to start to tone this a little bit down here, because we're going to gradually come down into this area down in the ground, and everything that's happening down here is going to be a little bit lighter. Okay, just going to sort of, this is water now. This is dry. That was wet. This is water. And I'm just coming in here and just slightly giving this some tone. My mixture is, again, it's watery, but it's Naples yellow, new gamboge, and a little bit of that blue mixture that I just had to give me that light gray tone. Right? So a little bit lighter down here. I want some of this area to be super light. To offset the dark in the background. But, you know, it must be in shadow. So here's what I'm doing is I'm actually mixing this area up. We're just gonna end up coming in here. Some of this is gonna be light streaks. I'll leave some of it light. Got a couple of figures over here as well. Add some warmth to it. Sure, why not? Let's add a little bit of pyro red into this mixture. Create a little bit of warmth. A little bit of warmth in the ground over here with some more new gamboge involved in this, a little bit more. Okay, and we're gonna have, maybe, I'm not sure, maybe we'll turn this into a snowy ground. What I'd like to do though is just give it, this tree, give it some land, make the landmass a little bit more curvier. I've got a walkway that's coming down here. We obviously have that tree. I'm going to probably do that tree nice and warm. So what I will do is let me just finish up this here, a little bit more red. So it's gonna end up having a warmer feel in the foreground and a cooler feel in the background. A little bit more shadow down in this area here. The idea behind here is if you leave some white, but you want to leave more white than you actually probably will end up leaving, just so, because we tend to fill in a little bit. So you can see how dark this is in the background. You know, if we have some trees that are over here, we can lighten those up a bit. We have some tree structures back in these areas here. A little bit on the wet side. So if I'm going to do my tree, I want my tree nice and warm. And it's for contrast, actually. Let me just take a round brush. And we're gonna just fill this in. What I want to do is, I'm wetting the inside of this. We've done this in the past, as you know, wetting the inside of it. Right down in this area here. Maybe we'll just soften this up back as it comes down with a little bit of water. And what I'm going to do is just come in and get some burnt sienna. We're just mixing up just clean burnt sienna here. We want to make this tree a little bit bright there. Maybe a little bit of yellow ochre. I don't see any yellow ochre. I'm going to add some red to it. All right, so this is wet in the inside, so my color is going to soften and spread. My value is dark, as you can see. It's mid-value, as you can see. But the more pigment I put in here, the darker it's going to get. We're going to actually change this up a bit too. A little bit of wispy here, wispy there. And we'll make some of this even darker. Bring my value down. We're going to end up actually getting a little bit darker value. I'm going to add now to this some French ultramarine blue to change not only change my color up, but I want to change the intensity or the value of this up a little bit more. These guys here are going to come up off the page. And we're going to probably end up, we got to wait for this to dry up a little bit because it's really wet in the background. I don't think I can, oh maybe I can put some of those in there right now. But we've got some real interesting, we want to make this really interesting, this structure, this shape. Made that a little bit too big, so we're gonna have to fatten up the trunk a bit. Maybe we'll fatten it up on this side. All right. So it's a play off the dark, but we want it a little bit warmer. Maybe we'll even put in some red. Here, let's take a little bit of pyro red and put it in there too, just to see if we can create something that's more interesting. Next step is to actually balance this off a little bit. I would suggest that maybe we do something with regard to something that's maybe a thin sapling on this side. We'll put a bunch of them in there as we go forward, but some of this is going to be just scattered and whatever, just going to go wherever it wants to go. Okay. So again, this is still all wet. We'll just enhance it a bit here and there. We got a couple of white houses. Very watery, light, warm, shadowy feeling. Let's just take some strong light, and we'll use our Naples yellow to cast some light shadows in here. This is dry. Let's see. Let's do it this way. We're going to just add some warmth on this side of the house over here. These sides of the buildings, actually. And that's just a Naples yellow. It's just sort of nice and warm. I'm going to end up, we've got a couple of these trees in the foreground too that are going to end up being warmer. We'll put a little bit of that cast shadow in there too. And this is in shadow, but we may have some nice warm light playing across that as well. Okay. And let's put a little bit of a, let's put a little bit of an overhang here, under here, certainly under here. A little bit of water. We also have the same feeling, let's say over here. Maybe we want to just differentiate that a little bit. We have a over here. Let's just do this here, here, and where's that photograph of mine? Okay. And we may want to get a little bit our steeple a little darker over there. We'll create a little bit of his shadow under here. We don't want too much on here. We do want to suggest that this area here is in shadow. And we want to suggest that this is in shadow as well. Would have some light playing on it. Let's bring a little bit of stuff down over here. Maybe we'll bring it up a little bit. Cast some shadow over here. And maybe some shadow under here to differentiate these two areas. We definitely have, look at the tree, shadow goes beyond this. In here, we do definitely have a shadow under here. And I'm going to get a little bit of a warm area here, which is keeping us light now, right? Correct? I mean, the idea is to keep it on the light side. Just want to create a little bit of warmth in here. And we'll just accent that a little bit, and maybe a little bit of this accent over here. Strong light, dark background. This dry enough? Might be. Let's see. Maybe we may be ready. Pulling out. some of the trees on the light side. Just nice and light. We're using a little bit of water. Now that this is dry, you see how nice and interesting this is? This is all granulated over here. I'm not sure you can really see it, but it's a combination of the burnt sienna and French ultramarine blue, cobalt blue, created an interesting sort of feel in this area. And let's just go back and see if we can pull out those poplar trees. I may end up having to change this, but we'll see. Adding a little bit of water. I'm going to just soften this up a bit, see if we can pull some of that out of there. I guess they're poplar trees, I don't know. Okay, let's just go back in here and pull some of this out of here. Again, water, put a nice light area. Let's get my paper towel. We are going to create some more interest in this tree because it's a little bit too dark, so we got to bring some highlights in there. Soften some of those highlights as they come down. Maybe we have a nice branch that's coming right off of here. Same with that. And again, let's try to make sure that we've got something interesting. We want to, the idea behind here is to try to constantly move from light to dark to create some interest. I'm going to make some of that a little darker. Adding a little bit of that yellow, my Naples yellow here and there to help this along a little bit more. Give those a little bit of a tone. So, in texture-wise, we should be okay. We'll soften all of this up down here with a little bit of water. And we're going to make this, actually where it comes in down in this area here, into the area, we're going to make that nice and dark. It's going to even we have to make this even darker. So let's we'll just beef this up a little bit. A lot of French ultramarine blue, very heavy pigment. Add the burnt sienna, make it nice and black. And we want to make this a little darker underneath this branch. Okay, and then we probably have let's see, right in here, this is very interesting. Well, maybe it's just a glare in the camera. Okay, so we'll play around with that tree. We can lift out, put back in. What I want to do is to just, now that the shadows are in here a little bit more, I'm going to come back in here and add a little bit more shadow where I think it needs it. For instance, we may need a little shadow here. Soften it up as it comes down. Nice shadow in here. And again, what we're doing is softening it up as it comes down. Something under here. This is basically shaping my my areas a little bit more. Add that in there. Same way with some of this stuff over here. We've got a couple of, or a few windows. Let's just put them in. Put the we're going to do something over here. We may have a couple of little bit. Let's get a shadow under here. And then soften it up. Okay. Darkening the shadow over here because we got this dark background. Putting something over here, we'll come down and we'll do the same thing here, here, make it a little bit bluer. All right, and we're going to soften it up. All right, so we can see the outline of this beautiful building back here. Bring in some of my green or olive green. This is basically the combination of Naples yellow again, as I said, and New Gamboge with a little bit of my blue. These are my trees. A couple of poplar trees. You know, I'm working, the way we're working with this stuff, when I'm basically doing this, I'm seeing it's dark against light is what I'm really doing here. So you have some interesting things that are going on all the way throughout this area, and we have some highlights. I think. See if I can get some of this brownish. We may add a little bit of sort of rust to some of this. Building up the character here, building up the general feeling of these trees. I want this to sort of all work together. See, the rust I had right in here is kind of nice. Get just generally the general feeling. Sometimes you can just leave this alone. It'll work. It works itself. It works out itself with not too much of a problem. And where's that? So the bottoms of these, we're just going to end up doing something like this. And I'm just going to we're going to suggest some brush over here, some against the white. This will pretty much look okay. Some pure color. And get some real darks to accent this up here. Right here. See, this is dry. We're just going to end up putting some real darks in here. Come across here. This is a windowsill underneath it. what this is, but we're just going to put some just interesting stuff down here. Give it some character, just generally, maybe boxes of things or some leafy structure or whatever. Add a little bit of shadow. I'm going to end up putting some shadow over here. And some down in this area here as well. On this house. And maybe bend it. Let's see, if it's down this way, maybe it's bent a little bit over that way. And I'm going to just do some dark shadow right over here too. Because I want to differentiate these areas. I want this to stand out against that. Soften that up a bit. Okay, we have some shadow under here which we need to take care of. Where's that? Just make sure. Okay. We have light coming this way, so we want to make sure that this is dark enough. It's got to be not wet, but I need to put this in. Forgive my head for a second. Just need to make sure that that's okay. Okay, so let's get some softness in that. Again, something that happens there. Let's get a little bit of a somebody over there. Put in my two darks. We have a couple of individuals, basically walking we'll just make them there you go. We'll do that guy and we'll do one here. Make another individual right here with a white shirt on and dark pants. Is that? Same thing. Maybe a pail or something. I don't know what these guys are in. Wood pile. Somebody standing over there. I don't know. What is this? I'll put something here. We'll do something here. Maybe a stump of a tree here. Couple of nice hits of dark. Door in here. Maybe a little dark area here. Let's define that with a little bit of shadow. Okay, it's my houses, my homes, my buildings, my couple of small trees. So far so good. So let's get more patchy. Let's just do a larger brush over here. And we'll start to get some more interest in the land. Maybe throw some brightness in here. Let's get a little bit of this. What am I doing? I'm using my opera. I'm doing a little bit of an opera overlay here. And a little bit of cerulean blue. You don't really know what's going on back there, right? So let's just hide all of that. I think what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit more latitude here. A little bit more of this stuff here. A little bit more shadow in these areas. From that tree. Okay. We have our bright building. I'm going to just let this dry, throw some brush in. This kind of stuff here, a little bit of weedy stuff. And we'll call it a painting. Just get a little bit of shadow. Let's see on this side here. Just a touch of shadow that's going to come across the top of that roof. And I know this is bright, but we'll do the same thing here. Let's give it a little bit of a shadow area. Just not so sure that we don't have enough here. I think we need to define this a little bit more. Yeah, I think so. Okay. Okay, let's see what happens there. So we'll let it dry a bit. I'll come back later on. I'll just touch it up. And we'll go from there. So there's just a couple of more things that I want to do over here. And that means my going back in and creating some darks with some solid color. And it's a combination again of my French ultramarine blue and my burnt sienna to create that nice black. Okay, and one of the things I want to do is I want to come off here with a couple of branches. I want to darken this up, come down here with a branch. And it's going to be a dark branch. Maybe I'm going to just, we'll fix this. It's very interesting because these dark branches create sort of a, I don't want to say, I don't know how to say this, but almost with the night sky, almost the Halloween-like feel to it, you know. But we're going to deal with it. We got some darks that we have to take care of. I don't want to say ghost-like. That's not really the word, but it's, you get that Nice stuff that's going on over here. And we're going to get a little bit more. Let's see if we can get this in here. Make it nice and thick. Thicken this out a little bit more. And as I come down here, I'm going to make it even thicker. And then what I'm going to do is we'll get some thin lines going over here. So this is the calligraphy stage of this game, and you know, we're just coming back and sort of beefing up some of these areas right here. Where's get my small rigger. I'm sort of liking some of this stuff here. I think what I'm going to do is make this a little bit more shadow here. A little bit more shadow, and I'm going to come down with some yellow. Go to a yellow, or maybe some red here. So it just sort of graduates down. And the same thing down here, we probably shadow. I want that to pop out a little bit more. That's good. Okay. So let's get some real fine lines in here. I wonder if I can just lift out a few more lights. Let's see if I can do that with this brush here. This is a little scrub brush. Light against dark, guys. Light against dark. My paint's dried up. I have to put new paint in here. All my paint is dried. These saplings make a big difference when you start to put all of this stuff in. These little saplings in the background are really super. Really does wonders to create a wide variety of interests. Okay. Well, I think that's going to be it. We're going to call this a painting. Yeah, I think we'll call this a painting. Okay. So like a lot of things in scenes like this, there's all kinds of things that are popping up all over the place to help it along with a little grass structure. Weeds. Make these trees a little bit stronger. All right, I think we've got enough. We don't need to put any leaves. We could probably put some leaves on the trees. I'll tell you what, let me do that with them. Yeah, let me just get this taken care of here. Make this a little bit brighter with that, and we'll make this. I want to be able to, this is the one area right here that I think we need to do something with. Let's put this in, soften this up, a little bit of water, and I'm going to remove. Well, what I'll do is I'll just use blue. I'll use my light blue. Let's see if I can have a white or whatever. We'll find a way to do this. enhance it with a little bit with a pencil. Now, again, this is a watercolor pencil, so basically what I'm dealing with here is watercolor as it is right now. I'm not doing anything other than, again, just using watercolor. Create some holes in the trees. We'll do something over here. Make this a little bit lighter up into this area here. And let's try something like that. We'll add a little water to it. Some watercolor pencils, so it's going to be water soluble. Okay. All right. Make this a little softer, a little grayer. Hey, we can do this, we can keep doing this and keep doing it. Always find something to do. But for the sake of our painting, I think we're going to just leave it, call it a painting right now. Just give me one little mark here and here. Some of these fine lines, much more interesting this way. Okay. Let me look at that in the thing. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I think we'll leave it alone, call it a day, call it a painting. Thank you for being with me. I'm your host, Tony Visco, and this is Painting for Pleasure.